Welcome back to Wild Speculations. I'm Daniel.
I'm Scott.
This week we talk about Critical Role Campaign 2, Episode 113, A Heart Grown Cold.
Yes.
No combat for many episodes, and then an episode that's all combat.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, kind of an anticlimactic return of the Vontica.
Yes.
Because most likely she's not coming back again.
I mean, she could.
She could, but
she died in the ocean.
Matt's not really the type to... doesn't seem the type to recycle someone that many times. Not when they die.
Liches can keep coming back.
True.
Vampires have a very specific way to kill them.
True.
They don't know what she was. So, all I'm saying is it's possible she comes back again.
It is possible. I admit that. It just... I don't know. For me, it felt very anticlimactic for the return of Vontica.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about tactical mistakes.
Okay.
I think each person made at least one.
Agreed.
I don't think none of them were necessarily encounter breaking ending, because I mean they won in the end.
Yeah.
And I will reiterate again, this is another perfect example of what I've said before. The mechanical mistakes that they make go both ways.
Yeah.
And then eventually it comes out as a wash. And this episode for me was the perfect encapsulation of that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time digging into that. But if you watch it and go round by round, there are mechanical errors that everybody makes. Some of which are quintessential to when you end a session 2 rounds into a combat. The primary one being mirror image.
Yeah.
Was arguably the biggest one.
The only one that really caught me, most of them I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. The only one that really caught me was Ford having to roll on the counter spell.
Yeah.
Because they both...
At 5th level.
Or at 5th level, it should have just countered it.
Yeah.
But he had to roll, didn't make the roll, spell went off. And I was just like, that was the only one that caught me in the moment. I was like, wait, no, he doesn't. Wait, why is he,
Yeah. The biggest one that caught me in the moment was Ford not picking up the Cloven Crystal when he puffed the fog out.
Yeah.
Because he should have been able to do that as part of his move to get there.
Yeah.
Or done something else.
Yeah. And we got to see that channel divinity. And I didn't go back and reread the D&D Beyond update that we went over last week. But
the other channel divinity allows him to move creatures.
No, the being visual and having to be directly next to him. I don't remember it being worded like that. Having to be
Me neither.
Directly next to him to be able to see through it.
Me neither. But so I was like, okay, that makes it
fine.
A little less cool and would make my changes really moot.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I think you were right that he didn't take his oath. He didn't swear his oath because this hadn't been fleshed out yet.
Yeah.
So that's my guess anyway. And yeah, the other thing that kind of it didn't really surprise me. And on my rewatch, I can watch the thought process in Liam's head in the first 2 rounds of combat. When he's deciding whether or not to cast shield or to save his reaction. And then in the moment he decides, I'm not going to cast counterspell against the Witch Bolt, which ultimately critted. And arguably, from a resource management standpoint, that was arguably the correct move. Because there's a chance he doesn't hit. And if he does roll high enough to hit, he still had 1 mirror image left.
Yeah.
So there's a chance it hits the mirror image. So why waste the counterspell?
Yeah.
And Liam in the episode says, I thought he had much worse.
Yeah.
Coming down the pike. Which he didn't do Witch Bolt again.
Correct.
He didn't use his action to inflict it again. Which I thought was interesting. I think Travis is still getting used to the fact that he has those lower level spell slots.
Yeah.
Because he used a 5th level spell slot to cast command when a 1st level spell slot would have done.
Right. Well, and also he made the statement, I'm done, I've used my 2 spells.
And then he's like, oh, and then he casts Branding Smite, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And then he dumped the spell.
Do his smite.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he's definitely getting used to, I have other spells. So it'll be interesting to see him grow into that repertoire.
Yes. I did like the use of Armor of Hexes. And I also liked his use of his Relentless Hex invocation, allowing him to teleport to the...
Which arguably he did not have access to. Sure. And that's one of those mechanical errors.
Hand-waved.
Yeah.
And they even briefly talk about it.
Yeah. Well, because Matt's like, well, how long does that last?
Yeah. When
he wanted to...
He's like, all right, we'll say you can do it this time, and then it wears off.
Yeah. Because by my count, it took them at least 10 turns to catch her.
Yeah.
And I think... So, for the story that Matt is trying to tell with Uk'otoa, I would argue it was a mistake to let them find
her. Okay.
And I don't mind, I guess I don't mind so much Monday quarterbacking Matt. But for Dimension Door, you don't have to see where you're going.
Right.
And to me, the fact that she looked off and then did it was a misdirect to make them do exactly what they did. jump off the boat and go 1,000 feet that way.
Yeah.
Because if I were her, it would have been to the bottom or behind the boat.
Yeah. Opposite way of which way you're pointing.
Wait for them to jump in the water and then stealthily trot my happy ass to wherever it is I'm going to go. Because any noise she would make, like if she would have teleported to the seabed behind the boat, any noise she made would have been mistaken for the propellers.
Yeah.
If it came down to my players demanding to know how she got away. But to me, she teleports off the ship, she's gone.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't matter ultimately probably which direction, like which way the players jumped off the boat. Because the best narrative direction is she gets it. Ukatoa gets unleashed. And then the party has to deal with that.
Yeah.
Later.
I think for me, I usually teleport, but I know where she's going. I may use the misdirection, but if someone, I'm going to search over here just in case, because I know how Dimension Door works. Okay, well, there's a chance, you randomly picked the right direction. Okay, you might find, just for the way I do things.
Yeah, well,
I'm not going to say, I won't do unless it's like a planetary-wide teleport type deal, like the spell teleport, not just Dimension Door. I mean, she's only 500, There's a chance you can find her.
Yeah, I don't know.
For me, I don't like to throw too much in. You know what I'm saying? If my players are bound by the effects of the spell, the NPCs should be too.
Yes, but there's nothing to say that behind the screen, okay, you teleport 500 feet. And if they all go in one direction, you determine that's not the direction the NPC went.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, does it matter at the end of the day that you did it that way?
No, and I'm not saying that it's an invalid or a wrong way to play. I'm just saying I would probably know. For me, I would probably know her escape route, and if they happen to go that way, then they might catch her. If they go any other way, well, they're SOL.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. They just if one of them had cast locate object.
Yeah.
On the crystal, then I make the choice which direction they went.
Okay.
If they get something that's going to point them in a direction, but if they just go, she looked this way, we're going that way. Well, then you fell for her. Yeah. Misdirection.
Well, yeah. No, obviously, if they only go the way she pointed, that's the misdirection.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, I don't think we've seen the last of Avantika. I think she will be back. I don't know how many lives she gets. And the great thing is, them killing her and her being eaten by the pod of whales means that when she comes back again, she can be fully spectral. And she can be fading in and out, the Drow assassin demon. She can have some of those powers that Matt can play with.
Yeah, that's true.
And then she becomes completely independent of any kind of warlock stat block at that point. Then she's her own creature.
Yeah.
And maybe if Matt goes that way, maybe the chance of her popping up is not just now on the ocean.
Well,
because he gave him that at the end too.
The other side of that is like when Ford's just doing his "How do you want to do this?" and Matt takes the moment and says, it grows about an inch and a half, and new runes. We've already established that this is a vestige. Yeah. And to me, that was the vestige exalting to the next level.
Yes.
And to bring Avantika back again would kind of cheapen that milestone, which allowed him to exalt the weapon.
I don't know if I see it that way. Because most of the time when Matt has the trigger for an exalt could have been you kill an undead, burning a smite. You reduce an undead creature to 0 hit points with the divine smite. Like that could be as simple as the exalt is. Or any creature for that matter, because he hasn't divine smite anything.
It's usually something about character growth and personal plot development in the vestiges. It's not usually something like that. He kind of leaves them open for the DMs to decide. Oh, okay, this is a moment of growth in the character story.
I could see that.
So they're not usually triggers like what you're describing. They're usually plot point. But regardless, I'm and again from the beginning, I'm not saying she can't come back. I just feel like at this point, every time she comes back, it's going to cheapen the effect of using her. I mean, it's not like the Briarwoods who actually escaped.
Yeah, but he kept using the Rakshasa until they went to hell to kill it.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, we don't know what she was. We don't know if there's a specific way to kill her. So, but still, I don't know. It just seemed off to me. It
like it could be she is some kind of lich, and the cloven crystals her phylactery.
Yeah.
Either the one that Ford carries or the one that she placed.
Well, I mean,
to unlock the key.
Theoretically, and while revenants typically get a new body, and her neck was mangled, so she probably didn't have a new body. She could be a revenant, and her undying, unfinished business could be to place the third cloven crystal, which would give her an excuse to come back. It could be as simple as that.
Yeah,
because she can't die until the third crystal is taken care of.
Yeah. And nothing says the revenants has to be a good thing they're around to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Another interesting mechanical encounter choice that I wanted to touch on was Matt doing cold damage every turn for anyone who wasn't cold resistant versus exhaustion checks.
Yeah.
Because for higher level characters, being in the water, that low amount of damage doesn't matter. Yeah. And yes, Topinator, you correctly interpreted my gaze at the camera when I mentioned the crystal being her phylactery. because that is true. If that's the case, then Ford has a phylactery too.
Yeah.
Although I don't think he would get to come back.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah. But yeah, but exhaustion keeps cold water a danger at every level.
Yeah.
Because 6 failures and you die. Now, I don't think you need to be checking every round. I think once a minute. And that would give a person 6 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And also would have, like, the potential for needing to recover from this fight many days is there, even without gritty healing, if you use exhaustion. Or if you just use hit points, one long rest, they're done.
Yeah.
Or even a short rest where they spend hit dice. And I think that was just an add-on, and that was in the moment. And I think it was probably a D6.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sentinel in the fight. I think one of my favorite moments for Yasha was when she's at the bow of the ship, she's grappled. She helped Bo escape. Bo runs down, comes around to her turn again, and she goes, I don't know if I want to fight these guys or come down there. We'll have to fight them eventually. So she just stays up there and kills the one that she's on, and then the other one got down, and Caduceus took care of it.
Yep.
But that was another moment where I wasn't sure. I understood Matt's reasoning when he made Caduceus make a perception check to direct the blast from the shield. When that crow came down and attacked Caduceus.
Yeah.
And he reaction blasted it and killed it. Matt was like, "Well, make a perception check." I was kind of on Talus's side, but it's the shield. It's not me.
Yeah.
But yeah, But the biggest one that determined so much of the fight and so many RP choices was when and how, who was collecting the crystal, who had control of it. At Tough Nair, I don't think it's that Matt was trying to keep the enemies alive. I think it was he wanted the players busy. And that's why he had the ones that could grapple. And immediately the one came, boom, you're done.
Yep.
And dispel the fog instead of attacking Caleb, what have you. So, yeah. And the pace of the fight assumed that they would have killed at least one of those things.
Yeah.
Because he had another Kroll come up the third round. Or fourth round. Depending on how you count when the fight started.
Yeah.
But yeah. But they kill Avantika. She gets eaten. They come back. The captain drops the ladder down. They're all getting out of the water. Caleb stays behind a minute.
Yep.
And Jester decides. He says, he bumps Jester a little too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh. And she starts petting him. He does the marine mammal smile and mouth opens. And she's, I'm going to pet his tongue.
Yep.
So, I asked the question, did Caleb give her the tongue, or did she give him a hand job?
All right.
Or was it neither?
I'm going to go with neither.
I mean, I do have to acknowledge that later on when they were enjoying their hot cocoa, their cocoa bombs, it was the T-Rex he was reminiscing about being, not the killer whale.
Yes, after they used the plutonium rod of hand warming.
Yeah. Matt acquiesced to Sprinkle not being in her hood.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Travis and Sam's theory is becoming more and more canon, I think.
Hollow Wind Sprinkle. We'll just have to wait till either or Caduceus.
Divine Senses or Eyes of the Grave.
And looks Jester's way. Well, Jester's alive, but there's something dead around her neck.
Yes, that'd be good. Oh, and another major development, not for character per se in the episode, but a player. Travis finally potentially coming around to the dice gods.
This is an example of life imitates art.
Okay.
Ford goes from to the one, you know, it's just a conversion of beliefs.
All right, I see that. I think it's more of the fact that when you play D&D or any tabletop RPG with dice, the nature of the human condition is for superstitions to spread.
Yeah.
And for you to impart on your dice will. And for the longest time, him and Sam both completely arbitrary. It's numbers. There's nothing there. And now most of the table has their dice jails. They have multiple sets of dice at the table.
Yeah.
That they will rotate through when they are not treating them well. And we saw a peek of that in Travis this episode. And I think that made me laugh. Well, not as hard as the Sprinkle thing, but it was close.
Yeah.
And him intimidating his dice. You want to be the only D10 in this thing.
We also have an social encounter with a family of marine creatures.
Yep.
Second time we've had a large creature recently described as albino, which is pretty rare. And yes, these are opposite ends of a continent, but still, pretty rare, especially for ones of this size. The T-Rex on Rumble Cusp and.
Well, importantly, they have been a differentiation that in a physical sign that these are a bigger danger, or that the players need to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I think we may get more of that. Just because in an Arctic setting, albinism
can be argued to be an advantage.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah. And weird stuff happens up here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think I don't know. If there's going to be any kind of arc in this town, it wouldn't surprise me that one of the key players might be albino. Or that one of the Tomb Takers is.
Yeah.
Because you have Kree, who was all black.
Mm-hmm.
Molly, who was purple, and a tiefling. So it wouldn't surprise me that one of the other ones might be albino.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. Well, let's talk about Sam real quick.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking, is there anything we want to say about the fight before we get into speculations about what we think is coming up? And I was trying to think what in the fight was a RP moment. And Sam, I felt kind of bad for him because he had advantage from Yasha and didn't shoot, where you could have taken out that one. Instead, he readied a spell, which released all of the ones on the front, and she didn't get to cast the spell. So, and then the next turn, all right, I'm gonna attack. I have advantage. No, what?
Yeah.
So let that be a lesson to you. When your zealot barbarian gives the battle cry, attack.
Yep.
But interesting development when they got trying to blank on the town's name, but when they got to the place of when they got to Isocross proper, that Vess put up the symbol of the Cerberus assembly.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out why she would do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they were granted entrance, but they were also told, hey, we got to let the guards who are watching
you. Yeah. I think there's something going on, which is why I expect there to be something of an arc in the town.
A side quest at the very least.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one that we're definitely going to get is the Mighty Nine trying to sneak off to find out if anyone remembers the Tomb Takers coming through.
Yeah.
Because I think they want to know, was the snowy tundra they were walking through south of here or north of here?
Yeah.
And her gestures scrying on Molly failed. So Is there anything you expect?
Nothing specific, really. I mean, they're going to question about the Tomb Takers. We're going to find out more about Isocross in general. Perhaps about the Worm's Tomb, which is a landmark in Isocross. And where one of Ukatoa's brethren is. The Worm is there in Isocross.
Oh.
And the Phoenix is down where Bo is from. The Deseret, the Phoenix, is the reason for the geothermal activity that produces the grapes where Bo is from.
Yeah.
And the other one is buried up here in Isocross, according to the Explorer's Guide.
Yeah.
So.
So I have a few potentials.
Okay, hit me.
Top here, before I guess I'll answer your question. Globe of Invulnerability.
Yeah.
Is the one that he just finished. Transcribe. It's a level 6 spell. So that's how long it would have taken him to do that. So I'm pretty sure that's the one that he just transcribed, or one of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is he's getting these spells from Halas's spellbook because he still has that. I also am assuming that there are some lower level spells that he may add to his own.
Yeah.
It would be interesting if he lost his spell book and he had to prepare it out of Halas's. Yeah. But
here's a question.
Right.
Just in regards to that, I know when I've had a spellcaster, that's had found an additional spell book. I've done this. Is he cross transcribing just in case he loses one?
He could be, because we don't know how full Halas's spellbook was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, potential threads that we could run into here. That are of their level. That have monsters associated with them that are of their level. That we either have already seen, or have some connection with threads previous. Right. Top of my list, Oni.
Okay.
The Tomb Takers from Shady Creek Run. So was Lorenzo.
Yep.
And Lorenzo was slated to be potentially a bigger threat and a bigger piece of the story.
Yeah.
So I think we might have some of his backstory here as well. Yetis and White Dragons.
Yep.
I don't know that we will see not Rhyme Fang. Was it? No.
Yeah, no.
Anyway. The Nightmare in Ivory, yes. Exactly. Or a Silver Dragon is in this town and keeps it alive. Archmages they might run into, because we have it on her authority that there are other interested parties.
Yeah.
So we might see some more Echo Knights, or what if we see? We don't know that he has any interest up here.
Who?
Essek.
Yeah, I don't think we'd see.
I mean, it's not impossible, but
unless he takes a mission to the north just to get out of town for a few days.
I don't think he. I think Essek's situation is, now that they have the beacon back, he's engrossed in his research with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he might just miss the Mighty Nine. Except I don't think he knows that they're up there. It would be a coincidence thing if he showed up.
Yeah.
But maybe whoever they do run into that's from the dynasty, if they name drop Essek, maybe they can defuse the situation.
Yeah. Or, better yet, what if one of the Dunamanchers from the that's going up there has got the Echo Knight with them as as their bodyguard? That's the one that ratted out the M9. Maybe that guy'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think primarily they will be concerned with trying to figure out, have the Tomb Takers come through.
Yeah.
Maybe seen a purple tiefling. Matt, thus far, when he has teamed up NPCs with the party, he has been content in letting them set the pace of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he will do it this time, because at least as has been presented to us, Vestaragna views their relationship as employer-employee.
Mm-hmm.
You will do what I say when I say.
Yeah.
We are on my timetable once we are on the job. Like, leading up to it, she was fairly open as to time of departure.
Yes.
And so I don't know how much pressure Matt is going to put on them to sort of get things going. Because they made such good time that day, it's early in the day, and she may want to set out right away. On the other hand, it may also be equally possible that she has contacts that she's going to meet there. Or basically deride them. Well, you gave all of your rations to those creatures, so I guess you need to go shopping again. Go do that.
Yeah.
And they'll put one or two people on that, and the rest of them are going to go look for Tomb Taker activity. But the thing is like, the Arctic is not a well-inhabited place. So encounters of creatures will be few and far between.
Yeah.
Outside of any settlement. So I think primarily any encounter we do have will be in the city. One other creature that we could see again that we've already seen, the Rimmeraz. And the other possibility is constructs, which we know were in AR and don't require an ecosystem to continue to function.
Correct.
So, I don't know. It will be. I think we're going to see them get stuck in a blizzard, or at least face one. The thing is, like, for their level, even the harshest conditions are barely an inconvenience. It's a time sink, basically.
Yeah.
So, while I can see them getting waylaid a couple of times, well, I don't think they can chill in Caleb's tower until spring. Top later, but yeah, I'm interested to see how Matt handles the fighting of the elements, the overland travel here, because it's an environment that he has already told them they have to hike. You know, the fast travel is not an option. But I'm interested to see how much he plays with it. Because sometimes if I want to encourage the feeling of the arduousness, the monotony, I will keep repeating the same kind of tests and the same kind of thing. Where, from a narrative standpoint, it's not particularly important for that to happen.
Right.
But I feel that it helps ground RP. Especially when I can begin to provoke the little that happens when you travel with a group of people for an extended period of time.
Yes.
I can when I can get that going, I consider it a success. And I don't know if Matt can get that with these guys, and I don't even know if they'll go there, because they have yet to. We've gotten close with Caduceus a couple times, where he's done some stuff that have given us a glimpse of the asshole that he likes to put in all of his characters, as he likes to say. And yes, Toughinger, the tunnel is another good example of that, where it's the monotony. It's the same thing, and in that case, they did sort of. Yeah. Oh God! Will you shut up?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that aspect, and also to have Vesta Ragnar along for the ride. Yeah, it's 2:00. It's 3:00. when Keen Mind became a hindrance instead of a boon. Or even not lost it on him.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to something like that. But again, it's a razor's edge because even, like I say, narratively, is it that important? And in a performance setting, is that something you want to subject the audience to?
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to get your players into that mindset. Does your audience want to be there?
Yeah.
There's a reason why in seasons 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Game of Thrones, everyone's fast traveling. Where in season 1, it took 3 of their 10 episodes to get down to King's Landing.
True. The other side for the pro for Keen Mind is in a place where everything is flat, white, and barren. It's nice to have someone who automatically knows which way is north.
This is true.
Because in that kind of setting, it's pretty easy to get lost. Especially if it's far enough north that it's like the Arctic and days go on and nights go on.
Well, here's the real question. If they're far enough north, when does north become south?
Like, which way is north? No way. Every way is south from where you are standing, Caleb.
Yep. Although I don't think they're going
that far.
Yeah. But that is an interesting edge case. Ooh, a cross-country ski. That's a good question. Possibly.
It would help with the travel time. I think snowshoes are more likely.
So do I. But that does bring up an interesting point. And now I'm trying to... Because I haven't actually read Rime and the Frostmaiden. And some of this is probably answered in there. Yeah, tough. Sled dog. I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna ask the question: what new animal do they buy that they are going to kill or abandon?
Iditarod.
And maybe that's one of the reasons why Vess sent that flare up, the signal, is to let whoever her contact is know, hey, I'm here. Get my shit together.
Yeah.
So that might be it.
Reindeer drawn sleigh.
Yeah. Or moose.
Yeah.
Giant elk. Calling it. We had giant goats at Uthadurn.
Yeah.
And the Glass Blades.
The goat knights.
Yep. So here it'll be giant elk to do the reindeer moose Lapland thing.
I'm good with that. I want to see Beth warm up at a giant elk.
Well, the thing is, Polymorph's only good for an hour. He can do it once without expending a spell slot. But you got an 8-hour travel day. It's a 4th level spell slot. That's his Widowghast's Web of Fire. Isn't that 4th level?
Yeah. Yeah, Liam probably will. I don't know that it's the solution, though. If there are no other solutions, Liam will be more than willing to do it.
Phantom Steed is a potential spell he copied.
Yeah.
Which is a ritual. Because he could ritually cast it for one steed. And then use 3 third-level spells to cast it instantaneously for 4 steeds. But we don't know that. It's one of the problems when you have a large party like that, is the logistics of getting around. Do you think... Because I've talked about how she might give them time to go shopping to restock on their supplies.
Right.
And how they might split the party for some of them to do that. But it's also possible they don't bother to do that. And Caduceus just prepares and casts create food and water every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I say, high-level overland travel, survival becomes almost trivial.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up being some kind of pack animal pulling a sled.
Which would put strain on their resources, because that animal has to eat.
Yeah.
It's also a way for them to get stranded. Again, it all depends on what Matt's going for.
Yeah.
And how fast he wants to get to Aor. Because if he doesn't mind taking his time, then we might see some more of this kind of stuff. But if he wants to get there to get into it, we could very easily get 1 or 2 days to establish a pattern.
Yeah.
Bing, bang, boom. Maybe it's just a skill challenge at, boom, they find it. Now we're here.
Yeah.
But if I'm right and we have a connection to Lorenzo and the Tomb Takers here in this town, I don't think that'll be the case.
Yeah. I think we're going to spend a couple of days in this town.
Yeah.
But I think most likely it will be a series of skill challenges. Whereas, and it could just be like, hey, you each get to do, you pick one skill and explain what you're doing for that day as you travel. And depending on the number of failures, may or may not result in an encounter that day.
Yeah. Which is how I like to do my random encounters. Rather than just rolling on a table.
Right.
But it is Talks tonight.
Yep.
So we will see you guys next week. Is it Thursday yet?